All right, let's get started. So I want to welcome everyone to this is our second pitch event for the Innovation Masterclass. And before we get going, I just want to remind everybody that we are recording tonight's events for use by the program and the partners. So if you don't want to be seen on YouTube, please leave your camera off. So almost a year ago, the Innovation Masterclass program started with two partners, and that was Flagstaff County and the town of Wainwright. And now we have 8 partners that are involved in making the program possible in rural and now suburban Alberta communities. So our partner, and I'll give our partners a chance to talk if they would like after this. Just want to introduce them. So we have Flagstaff County, the town of Wainwright, Alberta Special Areas Board, the STEP or St. Paul Elk Point Alliance, the Vermilion Rotary Club, the East Central Regional Innovation Network through Startup Lloyd, Paint Earth Society, and the City of Beaumont. So Christy, I know you wanted to say something if your mic is working.
Yeah, I typed it in the chat just in case, but I'm with Flagstaff County ECDEV, and this particular program is really important to our strategic plan for fostering innovation and entrepreneurial development and ideas. And we've had some amazing ideas that came out of the first Innovation Masterclass, and I can't wait to hear everyone's presentations tonight. So good luck, and I'm really looking forward to this.
Excellent. Wanda, did you want to say anything before we got going?
Sure. I'm Wanda Dyko. I'm from the Special Areas. And we also have a program called Return to Rural Project, which was actually based and started when we were able to get secure internet in our region. But as time moves on, internet challenges are affecting everyone. So it's a little bit harder, but I agree with Christy, we do need better internet. And startups in our area, though, are very important. And for us to attract people out to our rural areas, we do need to have entrepreneurs. They're the most resilient there is. And in our area, we look forward to assisting them. So good luck to everyone tonight on your presentation. I look forward to seeing them. Thank you.
Thanks, Wanda. Okay, we're going to get going. So now, unfortunately, all of the participants couldn't make it, but we have 4 great presentations. The participants put their heart and soul into this over the last 9 weeks, and along with all of the things that happened in the summer, it was great for them to be able to fully participate. The ideas that were developed ranged from a focus on growing a current business to getting a new idea off the ground. And I think you're going to see that there's a lot of potential in the ideas, and there's even a couple of things that could be major market disruptors. So we're going to get going right away. Somebody's wanting to get in. We're going to get going right away with the first presenter, and we're going to stop for questions and feedback between each of the presenters. So we ask if you aren't speaking that you mute your mic, and then you can unmute for the question periods, or you can ask questions in the chat if you don't feel like coming on mic. Do we have any questions before we get started? Nothing. All right. So I'm going to ask for Jean to take over and start his presentation.
All right. Thanks, Ken. Is it all up and visible now?
Yes, you're good to go.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, I'm Jean, and I'll just get right in here. So imagine you're Jimmy. So this is Jimmy. He's a young man who lives in the city and enjoys hanging out with friends. You're walking by the meat counter at the grocery store, and you notice some beautiful ribeye steaks and start to think of how you'd like to host a barbecue with 20 or so of your friends and some close family, until you look at the price of just one ribeye and learn that it's like $20 for a steak. So that makes your grand total like $400. The barbecue idea dies right there, but you start thinking, how can I find a more economical way of sourcing meat? What if I could purchase an animal directly from a farm, have it cut to my needs and wants, and save a bunch of money along the way? You start asking friends, family, neighbors, your neighbors' friends, and find out that 75% of them are also struggling with the price of meat. Also, 75% of them would also like to source meat from local farmers. You also get a bit of a surprise and you find out that about 38% of them would like some further education on what cuts are and how to cook them. A little more research reveals that income for the average family has remained relatively flat, with median income being in 2010 just under $70,000, and in 2020 it was just under $72,000. Whereas meat prices have continuously risen year over year for the same time frame. So over the same 10 years, beef rose 68%, pork by 40%, and chicken by 26%. Those are all retail values at the store. So this is where the Meetup app comes in. It's the Amazon of meat. Livestock producers get to post their finished livestock, butchers get to share their available time slots, and end consumers get to pick out the animal, the abattoir, and the cutting instructions to their liking. So traditionally, the meat supply chain has quite a few steps. It starts with the cow-calf operation, where the calves are born and raised until they can be weaned. Usually in the fall, auction marts are flooded with young calves to be sold to feedlots, where they will gain weight and muscle quickly to eventually be slaughtered. At approximately a year to a year and a half years old, they're sold to slaughter plants where they get slaughtered and usually packaged in easy to manage pieces. They then go through to a storage facility to age for a while. Then they get sent through through trucking and warehouses, and finally make it to the grocery store, where the meat department cuts it into the cuts that you know and love. Finally, Jimmy has the opportunity to buy his protein for whatever their meal or occasion is. Of course, every step has people and businesses that are looking to make money and eat along the way. Meet Up, though, simplifies it by allowing the end consumer to meet up with local butchers and abattoirs, helping the production end of the supply to get a bigger piece of the profit. So the farmers and abattoirs make more profit while still having some significant savings for Jim. So how it works: when you open the app, you select whether you're a livestock producer, an abattoir, or a consumer. Since we're talking about Jim, we're going to go through the consumer's experience. So when he opens it up, Jim then selects the protein he wants. Since beef, pork, and chicken are usually the staples, they each get an icon, whereas the plus sign will be for the less mainstream species, such as like bison and any other kind of other things. Jim then gets to decide the cuts, the size of packages, the number of packages, the thickness of the steaks. There's also a small icon for each cut for a visual cue of how it is usually cooked. So a little frying pan for if it should be fried, a roaster for roasting, a barbecue for barbecuing, right? If he's still looking for more cooking help, he also has access to recipes at this stage. Once Jim has made all his selections, at the bottom of the page, there's a rough estimate, dollar value, that will tell him approximately what it'll all come out to when he goes to pick it up at the abattoir. The next step is where Jim sees a calendar. This calendar lists all the local abattoirs and their available time slots to butcher his animal. When he clicks on a time slot, it shows him the approximate day his meat will be available for pickup. Then all Jim has to do is pay and pick it up according to the date chosen. So some of the potential. So there are 21,000 livestock producers in Alberta. The vast majority are beef cattle producers at 18,000. So in the interest of time, we'll only talk cattle. There were 4,730,000 head of cattle slaughtered in Alberta in 2017. If we could capture just 1% of that, we would have 47,300 head of cattle processed through our system. We start looking at customers in urban areas. Even at just 1% of Edmonton's population, we'd have 13,000 customers. And then looking at Calgary, just a little bit higher at just under 14,000 customers. not to mention all the smaller centers where consumers don't have a direct link to a producer or basically anyone who doesn't have the time to coordinate it all. So minimum viable product. So the first steps in truly testing the idea would be all footwork. Finding a consumer that is interested, finding a farm with an animal ready for slaughter, and using a butcher to custom cut the customer specifications. We would use each of their feedback on the experience and come up with any improvements. At this stage, the customer, of course, Jim, would still need to pick up the end product at the meat processor's facility. So as I mentioned, at first it would all be manually completed. It would be the start to building a network of local farmers and butchers that can be called upon whenever a customer is looking to purchase. Once the concept is proven, it would move on to a website basis. Once all the bugs are worked out of the website, an app would be created. At every step, we would implement methods of gathering useful information in an efficient manner to constantly aim at being better. So moonshot, in the long run and stuff, I'd like to do a few different things, like being able to offer meat pack subscriptions where people spend a few dollars a month rather than buying the whole animal at once. Spreading, obviously beyond Alberta and Canada, capitalizing on markets where meat prices are high, and then also branch out into educating potential abattoir owners into starting up their own operation and ensuring, and of course, that would just help build my business even more. And that's all I got. Does anybody have any questions?
I have to jump in and just say we did practice pitches last week and provided feedback with a disruptor, and your presentation has come a long way. It's excellent, and what a great job. I think this idea has a lot of potential and could completely disrupt that meat market. Does anybody else want to jump in with any questions or feedback? Wanda.
Hi, great presentation. And I really like your concept. I think it's quite interesting. One question. So would farmers be able to, so say they had a beef that was just about finished or had a feedlot, would they then be able to sign up and put their finished product on, like their finished beef, like that are like from the feedlot?
Yeah, so that's exactly what I was aiming to do. I could
perfect.
talk about this for hours. But yeah, right at the beginning where you can select whether you're a consumer or a producer or a processor. So it'd be the producer end of it would be the farmer. He would sign in and then he would have the option to put pictures up, put a story up if he wants. And yeah, say approximate day that it's going to be ready, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's really, really interesting, especially with farmers having so many and abattoirs not being as plentiful out in some of our rural areas. So I think that's really good. Good job.
Thank you.
And there's a ton of opportunity for this one to go in all kinds of directions if we start thinking, and it's not all in his presentation because we didn't want hour-long presentations, but I know these are all in his head. But gamifying the system so that you can have a favorite farmer, or people can rate farmers, can rate abattoirs, and all those kinds of things. So, Linda, I think you wanted to jump in?
Yeah, I just wanted to say great job, Jean. One question with the lack of abattoirs or the access to abattoirs, do you see that as being a barrier?
I don't think so. The only reason being that I'm a meat guy too. So like when it comes down to it is if I'd much rather have someone else deal with booking everything for me and planning it all out for me. And then I'm just in the back doing all the cutting and just hammering stuff out. The less time I have to spend doing paperwork or planning or whatever, the better, right? So I think even the ones that are crazy busy, they might even just jump on it and they'll be able to save a little bit of labor and save some time and find some efficiencies.
You could create a whole new, or increase the number of jobs in that area for sure. So we do have a question in the chat. Would consumers be able to pick from a selection of meats as they appear in the grocery store? Find it easier for myself to choose items already prepped than to decide for myself. So I think that was choosing your meats, your cuts, right?
Yeah. So as it would be just like an online shopping kind of scenario, I guess. You'd have each item. You'd have a picture as well. I forgot to mention there'd be a picture of each cut um, as you go down the list and stuff. So you'll see what it looks like, and then you'll be able to decide the size and thickness and all that kind of stuff. I hope that answers.
I have a awesome idea. I love the concept. And coming from beef producers, I think it's a great concept to make that connection, to bring, people don't know where to find it. And sometimes farmers just, the producers don't know necessarily where to advertise, how to source it, et cetera. So I think it's a great concept. I just have one question. Have you thought about pricing? Like, does everybody have the same price across the board? Or like I know seeing people advertising beef certain times of year, particularly after 4-H sales the last couple of years, where the kids have marketed their own calves. I've seen anywhere from $3 a pound to $7 a pound. Sometimes cut and wrap is included, sometimes it's not. So have you thought a little bit about price point and how one producer might have a higher expectation of a rate of return than another one?
So I did think about it a little bit. I haven't gotten a ton into the pricing and stuff. But what I was thinking was probably go market plus like 5 or 10 cents a pound or something like that. But yeah, that's still something, I've got to kind of figure out a little bit more.
And that's kind of the purpose of that minimum viable and running the first, iteration manually. And I know Jean's email address is up there. If anybody's interested in being involved in his pilot project to test it out, you can get a hold of him through his email. And that's some of the things. The other option then is as well that we've discussed, like when you gamify that. And so the producers that people find their meat is better or higher quality are then able to, charge more. And there may be options for that, but that's all things that Jean's going to figure out as he starts his pilot project and learns what's working and what doesn't work. I think Wanda was asking about the delivery of what would be the turnaround time from placing the order to customer receiving the product.
So that depends a little bit on each abattoir. So like when I was on the page with the calendar, so you'd see the calendar and you'd have each abattoir, and you would select an abattoir and see which days they're available to slaughter. And when you select that day, then it would give you an approximate day of when you'd be able to pick it up. Also, there's certain restrictions too when it comes to, like, beef usually is aged about 14 days, so you can kind of guess that about 2 weeks after it was slaughtered, then would be the time to pick it up. Whereas pork, slaughtered the night before, it can be cut up the next day. So it kind of depends on the species as well.
Great. Okay, just give everybody a second to get your contact information if they want that. And then you can stop presenting. Oh, that's some feedback, Kaylee. And then we'll have Kaylee start into her presentation. Thanks everybody for the great comments and feedback. Great job, John.
Great job, John.
So whenever you're ready, Kaylee. Looks good. You have to unmute. You're ready.
Have to unmute first.
Yeah, there you go.
Now can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Okay. And the slide is showing?
It is.
Okay. So not too long ago, my family had some cattle friends over for supper, and it's known it wouldn't be just supper. Fast forward a few hours, it's 11 o'clock at night, and one after another, the stories are getting crazier and crazier. I usually stay quiet and just enjoy listening to the stories, and there was just one jumped out. My dad says he's almost in tears as he's laughing so hard. The stories we could write. So as the conversation continued, I was thinking, I wish more people these stories. I wish there was some sort of product out there where people could submit their stories so everyone could hear. I mean, I only get to hear them once in a blue moon, simply because we don't go anywhere. And as ranchers, we have a busy life. We can't just randomly take a day off to go visit people. We have to plan for that day and make sure there's someone home to feed the cows. So being that there isn't the opportunity out there, I want to create it. So one option is a podcast, including live interviews with everyday farmers and ranchers from all across Canada and the United States. And the second option is a novel written by some of the best stories from farmers and ranchers. I will be targeting 18 to 60-year-olds, given that each sector was tied at 33% of the 21 individuals I surveyed. And given that 71% of those 21 individuals are female, that is the main demographic I'll be targeting. And Alberta is definitely my target market at 81%, but I do hope to expand this into different provinces and countries as the idea grows. Now, the stories I want to bring forward and tell will bring people in the agriculture industry together. And with my main purpose, it connects directly with what my target consumers care about. So it makes them more willing to spend their time and more willing to support my business as they believe in the same things I do. And now, in order to get new insights about consumers and my products, algorithms are essential. So artificial intelligence can recognize patterns in text, images, videos, and more based on the screening habits of the technology users. So I can use it to my advantage, as if I know what people are searching for on Google, I can tailor those stories to fit the searches. And I can also find out how many people are on a specific streaming app or what bookstores they commonly visit and promote my product in those specific sectors. Now, when it comes to dashboards, using Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and more, I'll have real-time information about key organizational metrics. So I'll know right away if there's an issue and I can correct it, or I'll know if there's something I'm doing that everyone loves or hates. And now by having the right interface, I can connect and communicate with consumers very easily and very quickly, and it'll help manage all the information. I genuinely believe 100% of the individuals I surveyed would participate, as well as all of the other ranchers and farmers out there, given the proper strategic marketing and placement of the product. It may take a bit of time to grow and really get out there, but in the future, I would like to expand into other countries and hopefully make this a worldwide product. Now, for my minimum viable product would be the podcast, as there's no cost because most platforms are free, and I would have minimum input, as I would only have my personal time. So October 1st, I'm searching. I need approximately 3 individuals per episode to share stories, and if they have multiple. But if they only have one, I may need 6 to 7 individuals. December, I hope to record the first episode during this month, as well as continue searching for more individuals willing to share. And then in January, I hope to release the first episode and continue recording more. And ideally, episodes would be released every second week. My plan is to use the podcast as a bit of a trial version to see what people like and see if they like to hear it and if lots of individuals are looking for this type of product in their everyday lives. If all goes well, I aim to publish a novel that will have different stories for those who prefer reading to listening and target a demographic that may not have the technology to listen to a podcast. And that is where my second idea comes into play. For a novel, the cost could be anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 if I do it myself, which would include editing, marketing, and design, plus printing. And the inputs are larger, as I'll spend more time on it and have more individuals who will submit their stories. In February of 2022, in searching, I'll need approximately 50 to 150 individuals to submit their stories, along with pictures or any graphics they want. In March, I'd be editing the stories just to make sure grammar and spelling is correct. And then in April, I'm formatting, so inserting all the stories into one document. I'll be designing a front and back cover for the book. And hopefully I can publish the book through a novel publishing company. I look back onto that signal night where my dad said the story would be great. And I'm amazed at how far this idea has come already. I wished more people could hear these stories. And I wished there was some sort of product out there where people could do so. And now I've created it. All I ask is to watch for it in the future. And if you like what you hear, share it with more people who would enjoy the stories.
Thanks, Kaylee. As you can see, Kaylee's contact information as well is up there on the screen right now. And if there's one thing I learned about Kaylee during this class, she's extremely ambitious. And as you can see, her plan is also very ambitious, and she's going to need the community's help to get 150 stories. So if you know anybody with great farming and cattle ranching stories or ranching stories, send them Kaylee's way. Do we have any questions?
Very good, though.
I have one quick question.
Yeah.
You offering any kind of incentive for people to submit their stories, or like, do they get a free book, or would they get, paid for their story, or have you thought just to create an incentive to try and generate that interest?
There's a couple different options to go with creating incentive. One option is to give them a free copy if they submit their stories. As well, their name would be under their story that they submitted, as like how you see in recipe books where the person submitting it has their name under their recipe. It would give them it would acknowledge them that way. And then they can also, I guess within the podcast more specifically, you can have kind of sponsorships. So one episode could be sponsored by a certain person who just wants their name out there. And they could just, I guess it'd be more like a donation than a sponsorship, but they would still have their name out there.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are willing to give a little bit of their time for recognition, for sure. Ashley had a question, and then we'll go to Linda after Ashley. So Ashley wanted to know, will you have less stories per episode if they're longer? So how long are you wanting each podcast to be?
I think to start out with, maybe half an hour to an hour, depending on what the reaction is from people. If they don't want to listen to an hour-long podcast, then I can shorten it and have them maybe 1 or 2 stories if they're longer, or littler stories, depending on what the reaction is and what people would prefer.
Linda?
Excuse me. We're seeing a lot of focus on agri-foods and agriculture in general, and trends that are happening. That would you be able to use, or would you consider using your podcast as an opportunity to encourage growth in those industries?
Definitely. And one other direction I could take this is to be educating, I guess, the urban or the misinformed, and those who would like to learn more about where their food comes from. It's definitely an opportunity out there if I can get that audience to start watching the podcast, or interested in purchasing a novel or to read information regarding that topic.
Just one other comment on that. I think that there's a lot of focus on food sustainability right now, particularly with agri-foods, and I think that would be so supportive of the industry and in building that sustainable food network. Excellent. Absolutely. Very good.
Shelby.
Yes. So Kaylee, I come from a farm, and so what your whole topic has kind of hit me personally. And what I'm wondering though is kind of more along the lines of what Linda was asking is like, what type of stories are you wanting from producers? So are you wanting like funny ones, educational? Are you wanting ones, yeah, like more about like sustainability or how a farm functions? Like what would you be aiming for, or would each episode kind of have its own theme?
Yeah, I think we could do it like on an episode basis. One episode could be like education stories. One episode more about like sustainability, and then another could be more like the funny stories. Because some people don't want to hear about the education, or they don't want to hear about sustainability, and that's where they could just listen and tune in to the funny ones, just to hear what other people are doing. But stories, definitely, whoever wants to, whatever kind of stories people want to submit, and we'll make kind of shift it and have it go in a direction however people choose, and whatever people like more.
Okay. Well, write me down on a list, and whichever you're aiming for, I'm sure growing up on a beef farm, I'll have anything in any of those categories.
But I think so when you're testing your podcast, so I can suggest that you try a few versions, and as well, you also try one that has several topics inside of one podcast, and then look for feedback and iterate based on your learnings. That's really, obviously that's what you learned during the last 9 weeks, is to try something and pivot based on the learnings that you get from it. Any further questions before we move on? Wanda.
Hi, I just want to say great job. I would definitely be interested in providing some stories or finding some stories for you, and as well as being testing your podcast. I was just wondering, so are there certain types of podcasts that you like to listen to, or length of podcasts? Like, have you done those surveys as well?
You're cutting in and out just a little bit there.
Sorry. So I'm just wondering, do you listen? Is there a favorite podcast that you like to listen to?
I don't listen to a whole lot of them. I guess I haven't really gotten into them. There's one specifically, they call it Livestock, and it's kind of, I guess it's sort of similar to what I'm doing, but not quite the same direction. They kind of talk about, they interview like one farm or one operation per episode, and kind of just talk about how they got to where they are, and some like who the most influential people were for them, and that kind of thing. And I'm going more towards like crazy cow stories, like cow chases you up the fence, and like that kind of thing. Or if people want to talk about like how they're running their operation with like new technology or green energy, that kind of thing. It kind of just depends on what kind of stories I get, but that would kind of be the only other podcast that I've kind of listened to. But I know that there's tons of them out there.
Right. Yeah. No, I was just wondering. That would be my recommendation, is look to or listen to some of the other podcasts that are out there and see if there's one that you resonate and you feel most comfortable with, because then if you're comfortable with it, you will do a great job, right? Because there's some that are more of a Q&A, and then there's others that really let the person tell the story. And that's, I think, what you are going for.
Yeah.
So good job.
Great. All right. So if you want to be involved, take Kaylee's contact information. We'll leave that up for a few more seconds here. Contact her, even if it's just to send her a quick email so that she has your contact information and your interest in participating. Thank you, Kaylee. So I will get set up for Pamela next. All right. Pamela, whenever you're ready.
Okay. The MTP is to make every woman comfortable and supported. The title is Adjust to You, and my name is Pamela Jane. Next. Wait.
Keep going through that slide.
Sorry. Okay. I'm 58 years old. I've seen and done a lot of jobs through my life. I grew up in Calgary until I was 16 years old. From the age of 10 to 16, I was a pilot in training. I loved to fly, and it was just like a bird. I grew up in the 60s and 70s. My goal was to fly around the world like Amelia Earhart and just shine love and happiness all over the world. I wanted to be popular and a poster child girl. In 1996, I began having some very bad medical issues. And in the 2000 year, my doctor asked me what I had to live for. I looked in shock. My son was my answer. His name is Randy, and he'd be graduating the next year. Although my body, the medical ordeals, and the body's shape has changed constantly, up and down, and finding undergarments that just wouldn't fit properly or could adjust to the changes as I was changing. It was really impossible. My goal is to have every woman be comfortable and supported with Adjust to You. Since the beginning of bras, it's been molded that most are to be a perfect shape. But of course, we know that we're not all hourglass figures, as we were expected to be. The trouble is pinching, wires popping out, and all through troubles dressing. If you have mobility issues, it's really not easy to put on or get dressed. So that's why I came up with the solution, Adjust to You. I created this Adjust to You bra that is ability to adjust in every dimension and throughout all body shapes and sizes for the changes of our trouble and having to purchase many more bras. This I've done by creating adjustment points in all the possible locations of the garment. Even if you got a broken arm, you'll be able to at least get dressed. I've been through 7 alliterations so far myself because my sizes changes so much. I find that it helps lift off my shoulders, the neck and the back cause a lot of problems, and it would be nice to adjust it to my body changes. The customer segment is 68% of 4 billion women struggle with plus sizes or changing body shapes at the time. In Canada alone, 2.1 million women have disabilities and that have trouble dressing with conventional undergarments, much difficulty. My global market, or my market is my global market. The bra is in 2019, 18.3 billion people women, at 68% of the women who aren't really very happy with their adaptability of their current bras, well, that equals to $12.4 billion potential market. Even if I get 1% of this market, it will be approximately $124 million per year. My MVP is throughout the fall, I'm going to be getting Adjust to You bras out to independent testers and, of course, myself testing. But fitting, adjustability, adaptability to all the different body shapes and mobility levels. I hope you enjoyed my presentation, and if you have any questions.
Thanks, Pamela. And again, Pamela's contact information is on the screen if you want to get a hold of her to participate in her minimum viable project or her pilot project. Do we have any questions or feedback?
I just want to say well done. Sorry, I cut in. I didn't raise my hand.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Good job, Pamela. And I think, this is one sector where if you can find the perfect bra, man, you've got it. So I think you're well on your way. So
It's on my kitchen table. Jesus. I ran out of thread today of all days, or I would be hanging it right here.
Shelby.
Thank you.
Yes. Good job, Pamela. I'm wondering though, have you thought about like retail? Like would it be an online thing, or are you going to try to push your way into stores?
I think it will be both. I would love to be in stores so that they could just pick it up. But of course, internet would be wonderful too.
Ashley had some message here in the chat. I'll read through that. So she said, Pamela, I'm sorry to hear you've gone through so much health challenges. I too have struggled for years with health issues leading to weight changes going up and down throughout the years. She would test it for you if you'd like. There are a lot of bras in the market, and she would ensure to get a social media presence.
Ooh, appreciate
that. Well, that would be important, I think, is what she's saying, to get a social media presence.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just going to jump in and say, great job, Pamela.
Oh, thank you very much. It's been a tough haul, yes, indeed. But every day, just one more step. Dreams will come true. My niece always says, okay, Auntie Pamela, you're the best ever. So why don't you just throw it out to the universe, and whatever comes, it will come back to you. And she said that to me 3 years ago in May when my father was passing away. And she goes, Auntie, do it. So I said, okay, Lord, I'm needing a vehicle. And 4 months later, I won a car in a grocery store draw, free, a 2018 Ford Focus SE.
Nice. I want to jump in here as well, Pamela, and say, Pamela had a ton of learning on this course, from technology to the methods to everything, and she showed up and put in the effort every time, and I commend you for that, Pamela. Great job.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other feedback before we move on to Shelby?
Yeah, thanks, Ken, for helping me keep on going every day. And I just got excited so much every day. It was like, I got to learn. I got to do it. I don't want to mess up.
Well, you do want to mess up. That's the point.
Right?
To learn, right? Fail.
Years, so.
All right. Thank you, Pamela. So we'll move on to Shelby. Chrissy also said, great job, Pamela, in the chat.
Okay. My name is Shelby Volstake, and I am the creator and sole owner and employee of Wild Rose Cinnamon Buns. So my goal is spreading comfort and joy with every bite.
Your presentation hasn't started, Shelby.
Oh. Yeah, I missed a step.
It's all good. There we go.
Okay, there we go. All right, here we are. So like I said, I am Wild Rose Cinnamon Buns. So as you may have guessed, I make homemade cinnamon buns and I sell them directly from my house. I started this venture 2 years ago and initiated when I spontaneously purchased a very expensive stand mixer. And so I felt quite guilty. And I thought, well, maybe I will sell a few pans of cinnamon buns and try to recoup some of the costs. Well, that was 800 batches ago now. And I just forgot to stop. So typically, the cinnamon buns come in either pans or boxes of 6, and they sell depending on what flavor they are, but they sell from either $16 or $18. So right now, I have 2 problems. As most of you would know, homemade baking of any sort has a very short shelf life. They tend to dry out and go stale quite quickly. Which means I can only do very last minute prep before a market or before delivering cinnamon buns. And that also means too that my customers have to consume those cinnamon buns. Sarge. They have to consume those cinnamon buns very quickly within a day or 2 of buying them from me. Otherwise, they go stale on their counter and then they're disappointed in the quality. My second problem is that baking takes time. Who knew? Ingredients are not only one of the most expensive aspects to this business, but my time as well. So I've been trying to think and find a way on how to cut back on this labor cost of mine. So I want to introduce to you Heather. She is my most common type of customer. She is a mom with an out-of-home job, very busy life, but she likes to entertain every now and then. So she's looking for something fast, convenient, affordable, and something tasty for her family and her guests. So 2 solutions I have come up with is using lecithin in my baking. It is a naturally occurring preservative that's commonly extracted from either sunflower seeds, soybeans, or eggs, and it helps to prevent bread products, such as cinnamon buns, from staling, which means that the shelf life increases and it gives more time for me to prep. I can then maybe prep the day before instead of the day of, and it maintains quality for my customers, such as Heather. So she can enjoy the leftovers from that initial event that she originally purchased them for. My second solution is to sell frozen, ready to bake cinnamon buns. That means no physical baking for myself, meaning I can then prepare more cinnamon buns in a shorter period of time, increasing my efficiency. This also helps Heather because then when she purchases those frozen buns and actually bakes them in her own home, she will have the smell and the nostalgia that comes with homemade baking. In my study, I have found that 88% of people love homemade baking versus 50% who actually bake at home less than once a week. So there's a gap there, which means people would consume more baking if they had access to convenient, ready-to-eat goods, such as cinnamon buns. The majority of people don't bake more often because it takes too much time and or they're inexperienced. Offer this product, especially with lecithin and the option of frozen ready-to-bake buns, there will be more customers lining up to try these. I hope to achieve this by engaging with customers through social media, such as my Facebook and Instagram accounts, as well as engaging with them at markets and during my delivery runs. And I plan to collaborate with more other local makers, and by having others tag me in their posts, I will then become more established on Instagram and Facebook. And I will also continue to experiment with different techniques and flavors to make sure I can continue to widen my customer base. For example, I want to be able to have a gluten-free option in the future. So right now, I have some notes for the future. Delivery is my most time-consuming and least favorite task associated with the business. So I want to utilize staff on demand and take advantage of the local commuters, using them to drop off cinnamon buns to locations where customers can then pick up instead of me having to do that task. I would also like to build a website. Up until this point, I felt that that extra cost wouldn't really be recouped, but I'm starting to come around to that idea, especially when a website could help me to use potential algorithms, which would then manipulate which type of flavors or what delivery routes I might take. Also, a website would streamline ordering, making my job more efficient, and it would implement a customer loyalty program, which I've been wanting to do for a long time, but I just haven't found the logistics to do it. In addition, I'm really excited to look more into fundraising. I would like to sell my cinnamon buns through fundraiser programs at schools or clubs or sports teams, which could then be a huge opportunity for me to not only increase revenues, but to then further expand my customer base, especially outside of my local area right now. Here is my contact information, and I'm wondering if anyone has any questions.
Thanks, Shelby. And yeah, if anybody knows of any groups looking to do a fundraiser, I think this is a really great option for a different fundraiser than a lot of the ones that I've seen out there. So we have Linda first and then Wanda. So go ahead, Linda.
Great job, Shelby. Just wondering, with all the local food initiatives that are going on, I'm not sure if there's one happening in your area, but have you thought about connecting with some of the restaurants and institutions maybe that are looking for local food?
Yes, I have to be careful with that, because as of right now, I am not baking out of a licensed facility. And from my research, I have found that that's okay if I sell directly to the customers. However, if I sell as a retailer, like if I sell wholesale, which then is retailed further on, for example, in a store or a restaurant, then that's not allowed. So I have to look further into the actual rules on that and clarify that that is the case. And then if it is, I would have to look at facilities in my area that I could use, which would be licensed.
Wanda.
Great job, Shelby. They look delicious, and I wish that you lived a little closer. So the commercial, I think you will have to probably have a commercial kitchen. Usually it's if you're in a farmer's market and you fall under that umbrella, then you can sell under that. But anytime you start selling outside of that, if you want to go and advertise, so definitely look into that. I had fundraising because I thought, oh, this would be such a perfect fundraiser. There's so many groups that are looking for different ideas. So don't be afraid to reach out to other areas besides just where you are. Then I was wondering, like, how about if you were able to sell to like the golf course, or had like a standing order with like golf courses, hockey arena concessions, right?
Yes, I actually have sold through the local convenience store, and they went over really well. And then I did start selling at the local skating rink last winter, but with all the COVID restrictions, they were not going over well, just simply because they didn't have the traffic. People would go there. Like they had the booth open initially, but then they had to close it down within like 2-3 weeks of the hockey season starting. So I think it needs to be something to be explored, because it would be good, but we just have to wait maybe for COVID to go away before that could be a possible idea.
And then I just had one last thing. You were talking about the cost of some of the ingredients. So will you be using like local ingredients? Or will you be like ordering from a wholesaler? Like, will
Right
you be going
now,
to one
I've
of
been
those?
doing a lot of Costco and Walmart just to try to keep my costs as low as possible. I would love to be able to support more local. For example, a local flour mill or something would be such a nice thing to do. But I do get some flack over my prices, and I don't see how I could warrant increasing my costs, to buy local, because it almost always is more expensive versus, and then having to increase my price, my sale price, and then having more customers be upset about that. So it's something I need to look into for sure. But as of right now, I've tried to keep my cost as low as possible so that I could keep my price as low as possible.
Right. Okay, great. Good job, though.
Ashley is asking where you're located, Shelby.
Oh, I am located by Amisk, which is a half hour southwest of Wainwright, or 2.5 hours east of Edmonton.
Okay. Christy?
Hi, sorry, can everyone hear me? My internet's okay?
Yeah, talk slowly.
Perfect. So I just want to say that I'm savoring one box of your raspberry cinnamon buns in my freezer right now, and they're amazing. So I know that you're out of raspberries. So I'm waiting until I absolutely can't resist anymore. But I'm a very happy customer, and I just wanted to share something that I know a few producers have done in Flagstaff that is kind of cool to get around the commercial kitchen. Is on their food permit, they have gotten approved using a community hall kitchen, which they've been able to rent for a day at a lower rate than the whole hall itself, because they're all elected and commercial. So I just wanted to share that with you. It was a few, I think they did canning or jam or something that wanted to sell retail. So that was what they did. But your product is amazing. I'm a big fan. So good job, Shelby.
Thanks so much, Christy. Yes, that's on the top of my to-do list, is to look at local licensed facilities that would be reasonably priced for me to rent.
And so if you look at you'll have to use a commercial kitchen if you get into a fundraiser position. But the fundraiser is a really good idea because you've got time, and generally you get the money up front, and then you have some time to actually produce that order. And so you can then just go really ramp up and do a one-day shot and get all the orders completed in a commercial kitchen and really keep your fees down. So that's probably a good place to start, is with fundraisers, to really build up some large orders and access to a commercial kitchen and test out using a commercial kitchen.
Okay.
Just to jump in there, I know it's a bit of a drive for you out to St. Paul, but Portage College does have their commercial kitchens that are fully stocked with all the equipment that you would need to mass produce.
Yeah, that's a good one, because right now I can do a double batch in my mixer, which is 4 pans at a time, and so far that's been okay. But it would be excellent if I could ramp that up and do double or quadruples from that.
Yeah, I think you could probably do quite a big run inside of a commercial kitchen, especially if you don't have to bake, right? In doing the frozen buns, there's probably a lot of opportunity there. So, and Wanda and myself and probably many other people on here have volunteered as product testers and quality control testing.
Perfect.
Any other feedback or comments? All right. I want to really thank the participants. I know it's difficult going through this course in the summer when you've got all kinds of things going on and your family's outside roasting, hot dogs, and you're on this call with me. And but you all put in the effort, and I hope that you learned a lot. And definitely keep in touch. Let me know how things are going. Any final comments or questions before we end for the night?
It was absolutely fun, and I'm glad to meet you all. And it was great. It was tough, but it was great.
Yes, thanks so much, Ken.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. Any final words from our partners?
I think you guys did a great job, each and every one of you. John, you're kind of quiet down there, but I really enjoyed listening and watching you guys' presentations. And, I was on a few calls and it was fast paced. And so you guys really had to hustle this summer. So well done. And Ken, it was really good to see you work and how you just moved them forward. So thank you for that.
Awesome. Thank you.
It was great.
All right. Okay. If that's all for tonight, thank you all for attending. And we'll see some of you at the next Masterclass pitch. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Well done, everybody.
Thank you. Bye now.
Well
Bye.
done.
See you.
Good evening.
Bye.
Again, when do we join the next one?